and we'll be going over everything in this Avatar, The Way of Water movie video. One of the big films of the year is going to be this Avatar, The Way of Water. So if you don't want anything to be ruined, I advise you to turn off right away. And if you like this Avatar, The Way of Water movie review video, please click the thumbs up icon. Also, remember to subscribe for daily breakdowns like this one. Thank you for clicking like button and subscribing on this channel, by the way. Let's now talk about Avatar, The Way of Water. Start. Okay, so when we last left Pandora, the US military had just been overrun by the Navy as a result of, switching sides and inciting an uprising after Colonel Patrick had been defeated. The humans had to leave Pandora. Since that time, the world has been at peace. We find out that Jake has a family with Neytiri and has adopted the son of Cartridge, who was forced to remain on Pandora. He was too young for cryosleep when he was born in Hell's Gate, which prevented him from going home when he was older. As a result, he has stayed behind with the Navy. Not only have they adopted him, but they have also taken Carrie, a somewhat enigmatic character with Sigourney Weaver doing voice work, under their wing. How she ended up being in the first portion of the video is a great mystery. That's something we'll experience. If you think back to the first Avatar movie, you'll recall that Sigourney portrayed the role of Grace, who passed away just as she was transferring her consciousness into her avatar in the opening minute of the film. Grace informed Jake that she worked for Aoa. She went away, leaving behind her avatar body. Carrie was born from her, and although Grace's avatar had its brain removed, it was still biologically alive. As we learned, she had Carrie, who is now human in nature. There are also 4 fingers and the eyebrows. They all carry human DNA. Therefore, this was something from the first Avatar movie. Carrie has a strong spiritual bond with the Earth, perhaps as a result of her appearance on Aol just before she passed away. At one point in the Avatar movie, Carrie even sees Grace, but we don't learn a lot about her conception, and Carrie frequently visits Avatar and also watches through recordings she left behind, since her greatest dream is that she could have met Grace. There are 3 possible ways for her to have been born. Given that her body is now brain dead, the first is fairly good. But I'm not sure whether we're necessarily going to go that way, since I don't think James Cameron will touch that. Particularly not in a Disney film. The alternative scenario is that Carrie is in fact an immaculate conception. She was created after Grace and entered God's presence in Anne. She has a way of connecting with the spiritual side of things, and I believe that she might end up playing a really crucial role in the forthcoming film. Additionally, there's talk that she and Norm had a relationship and that she was pregnant when she died. If Carrie can manipulate aquatic life, it stands to reason that she could be able to control the plants and animals on land as well. Grace isn't the only character in the Avatar, The Way of Water movie, who gains new life. Wainfleet, Colonel Patrick, and also do so. We learn in that the quartet uploaded his mind years before his death. His feelings and everything that shaped who he is. He has gone through the recombinant program, which has enabled him to come back again. As a result of him being duplicated before his death, Quatra now, she doesn't remember any of his experiences since, technically, from his perspective, he never had them. There are many exciting things they can do with him, and he might eventually discover that he is a slave being exploited by the army, instead of having a real life of his own. There are many deeper issues at play here, such as what it means to be human, and if a perfect duplicate has its value, if it is only a copy. He also detested the Navy, although he has now evolved into an avatar. And coming from him, his distaste for quadrature is extremely obvious. Very rich. At that, rather wealthy. I only made one poor pun for the video. The current situation is very much a Ship of Theseus scenario that they might decide to explore in subsequent motion pictures, given that we already know the character will return. Due to the time he was posted, is now the standard for all sequels. He harbors the same animosity against Jake that the original had. Sully doomed the entire race because he was in need of some blue cat lady, and Jake is a traitor who shattered humanity's chances of survival. His words, not mine. After the humans land, we experience a time leap of 1 year. We observe Jake and the Navy beginning to initiate guerrilla strikes against humanity at Spider is quickly taken prisoner by Quadrature's men, and understanding that he is intelligent could put their people at risk. Jake and the family make the decision to move. By placing someone in what is essentially an MRI scanner while under the influence of pharmaceuticals, humans have a way of effectively seeing someone else's thoughts. Spotters to locate Jake. They also begin to hunt toucans, and we discover what humans are. These animals are really intelligent, and there are things inside of them that are there for us to play with, that fully halts all aging in humans. Everything is now good for humanity. Hunting them and attempting to gather this in order to sell it on to avert the death of people humans attacked and the children were captured as a result. A significant naval combat commences. They were successful in fleeing, but Nate was a shark jumping off. The ship eventually succumbs to his injuries. His remains are brought to the coast. He essentially becomes the family's first blood. The Avatar. The Way of Water movie's conclusion serves as a kind of mirror. As we begin by narrating his birth, we observe Jake and the Navy beginning to initiate guerrilla strikes against humanity at Spider is quickly taken prisoner by Quadrature's men. And understanding that he is intelligent could put their people at risk. Jake and the family make the decision to move. By placing someone in what is essentially an MRI scanner while under the influence of pharmaceuticals, humans have a way of effectively seeing someone else's thoughts. We conclude with the characters passing. In the course of the Avatar, The Way of Water movie, we repeatedly watched Jake berating his kids because of the stress brought on by the humans making a comeback. He had to turn them in his troops. Jake's kids were bullied by the Macarena in addition to not being allowed to be the family that we see them being in the movie's start. I believe that he believes that the lives that they should have shared because of the conflict have been lost. Resuming the show now. The situation is made worse by Patrick's desire to emulate their way of life after hearing Jake's stories. Jake is in a tree and is surrounded by fire as they leave in a sinking ship into the night. This also applies to Cliff Curtis' voice character Alita to Naru. Also has a wife for an owl in. Kate Winslet portrays the character, who I believe is an owl. In addition, the couple has a daughter named Rhea, who sort of initiates a relationship with Jake's kid. Winslet declared that she would never again collaborate with Cameron. She was then placed on the Titanic and in interviews she claimed that throughout production, when the tree almost went berserk Jake releases Tuck as she removes them. At this moment though, Carrie has been taken prisoner by Godric, who literally grabs Spider and stabs him in the neck. Despite Quaritch's initial denial that he cares about his passing, he hands Carrier a note. He discovers she is prepared to accept a sin for his son. It's obvious that Quaritch cares for him. We'll go into more detail about this later in the Avatar, The Way of Water movie. Jake now attempts to leave but Patrick warns that he won't stop until he has killed Jake and every member of his family. A result, he fights them once more. The family is compelled back on board the ship in the end. Jake appears to have drowned into the ocean as the fire from it begins. However, a spider saves him. Jake now drowns as well. Lark, though, returns to the area to find him. They manage to escape with the aid of a token. Patrick called Spider-Son and asked him to accompany him. Spider, however, joins the Navy and swims home to his family. This makes a terrific first impression and is definitely a son for a son. However, instead of killing Spider, they separated him from his father. He'll probably spend the rest of his life fighting in this battle and may never experience the love that comes with having a family. We know from the first Avatar movie that the Navy has a circle of life in which they are born because the Avatar movie closes with a funeral at sea. The son leaves for the spiritual realm before they head back to Asia, and Jake offers to leave them at Cadena. However, the group accepts him, and this is now his new home. They reach out to Aoya underwater as the Avatar. The Way of Water movie comes to a close, and Jake sees his son, together with Neytiri. Jake swears he won't allow Quaritch to seize his house. They are moving ahead. There they'll take a position. His eyes opening at the end of Avatar. The Way of Water movie is very similar to how they did at the end of the first Avatar movie. We know quite a bit about the remaining Avatar movies. Alongside this Avatar, The Way of Water film's principal photography, Avatar 3 was also being shot. All of the cast members started coming back in 2017, and it has been announced that Quadrature would be the antagonist in episodes 3 through 5. We already know that Una Chaplin will play a Corporate because she and David Thewlis have been added to the cast as new roles. We don't know the name of his role, like with Thewlis, but he did mention that he needed to do motion capture for the picture and that his character is a Na'vi in passing. Michelle Yeoh is another option. She will portray Dr. Karina Mogg. In interviews, Cameron has continued to say that he has some notes backed up by the Avatar 3 script. He claimed that he must have improved because all he received for Avatar 4 was the email. This is ridiculous. The third Avatar movie's title will be The Seed Bearer, the fourth Avatar one, The Token Rider, and the fifth one, The Quest for Awea. The gigantic whales that live in the ocean that we've made The Avatar movie's tokens. The other Na'vi will probably learn to ride them after seeing Jackson riding them, much as we did with the Whim Riders back in June. I anticipate that the token will be something similar. These enormous creatures will level the sea's playing field, enabling the Navy to defeat humanity. Of course, the humans want them to. And because of the fluid within them, I believe they'll end up being the most significant thing. Now, based on the connections Carrie made with Grace in the Avatar, The Way of Water movie, The Quest for Aowa, which will be released in 2028, I predict that Carrie will receive a lot of attention in this final installment. She can essentially take on the form of Aowa in human form, and it appears that she stayed in the tree after being transferred there rather than entering her body like Jake did. Now, based on the connections Carrie made with Grace in the Avatar, The Way of Water movie, The Quest for Aowa, which will be released in 2028, I predict that Carrie will receive a lot of attention in this final installment. She can essentially take on the form of Aowa in human form, and it appears that she stayed in the tree after being transferred there rather than entering her body like Jake did. Even while I assume we'll stick with the Immaculate Conception theory, we'll probably also find out Carrie's real father. In relation to the earlier discussion about the beard and the concept of cloning, I do believe that they might start investigating this direction more and more, however. However, it's likely that Jake will kill the second Patrick. I honestly believe it would be more intriguing if he were kept alive and we learned that he genuinely is pretty wealthy rather than a clone. And he chooses to try and build a relationship with his kid rather than leading a life centered upon violence. He has witnessed what goes on behind the scenes in mankind, and being in this position now could cause him to develop empathy when he kills individuals that look like him. Therefore, rather than saying, well, if it were going to burn it all down now, what would the army do at this juncture? He may choose to leave the military and live in this paradise with his kid. They still have his mind backed up, I suppose. And I believe it would be ridiculous if they just chose to exploit his brains to make another ROM. Since the last one had failed, like him. Therefore, rather than saying, well, if it were going to burn it all down now, what would the army do at this juncture? He may choose to leave the military and live in this paradise with his kid. They still have his mind backed up, I suppose. And I believe it would be ridiculous if they just chose to exploit his brains to make another ROM. Since the last one had failed, there is no prohibition against the same individual appearing in two different romantic comedies. And in the case of the latest version, it would appear as though the person had recently uploaded his consciousness. He may be seeing two different versions of Quadrature, one of whom might have undergone a full character arc while the other might have recently been revived. This, in my opinion, would add a fascinating aspect to the entire series and explore the question of what it means to be a human. We now know that the battle will probably be broadcast at some time. According to reports surrounding Avatar 5, we will be looking at the planet, and this may be for one of two reasons. Either they intend to end human contact permanently, or maybe Pandora is livable. The conflict may end with the extinction of all life on Earth, forcing the Navy to escape into space. It is fascinating to consider whether there may be any other motive for going to Earth, given that the Navy lacks the capability for space travel. Have you seen the first Avatar movie's extended cut? Once you realize that we were once on Earth, I'll go on to my next argument, which is my illogical idea. On Jake's brother, that's accurate. You leap. That is a theory. Take your favorite portion. Favorite, is that right? Is that right? Knowing that, it appears to serve. You consider the first Avatar movie in your memory. Then you'll be aware that Jake's twin brother's participation in the Avatar program was the only reason he was accepted. Jake was urged to visit Pandora since it was suitable with his avatar because his sibling had passed away. I believe the recombinant aspect opens up a lot of new plot lines for the Avatar, The Way of Water movie. And I'd love it if there was a shock that revealed his brother was still alive, but that his corpse had been cremated because if his mind had been replicated, they might be able to bring him back. Looking at Jake and his avatar in the Avatar, The Way of Water movie would offer a new layer to all of those conversations since he is also his twin. Jake could essentially be presented with his former appearance, and his brother would stand in for the past that he left behind. Although I don't believe they go with it, Jake's brother's passing is what motivated him to embark on this voyage, which may cause some tension between him and his brother. I believe that the overall theme of the Avatar, The Way of Water movie may revolve around releasing people who are imprisoned in the recombinant program since individuals who are there run the risk of becoming slaves. Who knows how frequently cartridges are returned? Additionally, one may simply hit the reset button to start over if they wake up and behave differently than they would want. Say that the soldiers are wearing fluid and tokens. Rich will therefore be a slave engaged in a never-ending conflict. Freedom is taken away, and those who don't behave the way they desire are compelled to lead a life of warfare. And even if no one will exact revenge, that is a freedom. To speak, to show thought. He did anyway. Some individuals have said that. They could even declare it's all a simulation while still dealing with those bodies and other things, in response to Cameron's remarks that they are insane. However, given that the Avatar: The Way of Water movie's title contains the color aqua, I doubt they will. Movies that achieve so without the idea being built in typically face criticism, and if that happened, I'd punk the calf so I can't do it. And those are my ideas in the movie. In my opinion, James Cameron is once again nailing the visuals. Even the first Avatar film cannot compare to this one in terms of the setting and the natural beauty that is on exhibit. The experience actually jumps off the screen, and it keeps reminding me why movies are such a significant part of our society. Now that the Avatar: The Way of Water movie has run for more than 3 hours, the storyline seems a touch thin. I believe that certain individuals could have trouble with the pace. The Macarena isn't even performed until an hour into the film. But in my opinion, the extent to which the world consumes you more than makes up for that, of our society. Now that the Avatar: The Way of Water movie has run for more than 3 hours, the storyline seems a touch thin. I believe that certain individuals could have trouble with the pace. The Macarena isn't even performed until an hour into the film. But in my opinion, the extent to which the world consumes you more than makes up for that. Once more, this is unparalleled in terms of breadth and size, and I wholeheartedly endorse it. Everyone leaves a movie theater. This raised the stakes in a way that reminded me of how compelling the original Avatar movie was. The characters are not as deep as some have claimed, but I do disagree with that as well. The plot is now extremely complicated, but it's still very much a coming-of-age tale for the children and their parents, who must also consider the price of war. Additionally, Quadrature and Kiri has some incredibly intriguing features that will undoubtedly be explored in upcoming sequels. Yes, Cameron Stern has once again produced a great spectacle. But at its core, the Avatar: The Way of Water film is a family drama that seems enduring. It remains to be seen whether this Way of Water film will perform well at the box office. And although that was more of a stand-alone chapter, I believe, this seems very much like a middle chapter. You should probably bring everyone back. However, I believe that this Avatar: The Way of Water film will be well received and that viewers will likely come back. In general, I believe that most people will find it to be a positive experience. As the tour de force, I'd rate this as a 10 out of 10. Avatar: The Way of Water movie, it would likely appeal to audiences around the age of 10 since it has fantastic narrative and aspects that foreshadow the future. However, the pacing at times and the fact that the plot doesn't feel finished prevented this Avatar 2 from being great for me. Obviously, I'm interested in hearing your opinions, so please leave a remark below.